Hey, church family, I wanted to take this opportunity to present you with another word of encouragement as we continue to pray for the outcome of this election. Well, here we are. It's 3 days after Election Day, and we're still waiting to find out who's going to end up in the White House for the next 4 years. Sadly, the results of this election, well, they're always going to be in question, and they'll probably be questioned by people on both sides of the aisle. You know, if Biden wins, Republicans are going to continue to insist that the Democrats stole the election through ballot harvesting and double counting and dead voters and these sorts of things. And if Trump secures the victory after forcing the decision to be made by the Supreme Court, well, then the Democrats are going to continue to insist that Trump has also stolen the election. This kind of reminds me of the situation that occurred back in December of 2000. This is when the Supreme Court ended up settling a recount dispute in Florida's presidential election between George W. Bush and Al Gore. This happened after the Florida Supreme Court ordered a statewide recount of the votes that the tabulation machines had missed. It was at that point when the Bush campaign asked the U.S. Supreme Court to stay the decision and halt the recount. And after agreeing to stay the recount, both parties were then provided with the opportunity to approach the court and present their arguments. And at the end of the day, the Supreme Court decided to allow the previous vote certification to stand. And as a result, Bush ended up winning that election after securing Florida's 25 electoral votes, which pushed him over the 270 that he needed to win. Now, without debate, this was an unfortunate situation which was caused by faulty equipment. Some of Florida's voting machines failed to properly create a hole in the punch cards, and as a result, some cards were slightly dimpled, while others had, the infamous hanging Chad, and I just felt sorry for everyone named Chad that year. It was sad for them, but I remember watching the news, and I remember watching as cameras were trained on the counters, and the counters were, looking at the cards, and they were attempting to make sense. Is this just a dimple? Is it a pimple? Is it a punched out hole? Is it and there was just punch card confusion. As a result, it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ultimately made a decision. Regardless, though, of the results of the 2000 election, that whole situation ended up eroding our trust in the electoral system here in America. And listen, our distrust has only continued to increase as many states like California and New York and Philadelphia, they refused to require voter ID before, being allowed to vote. And so, many of us, question all of that. And then when we factor in the pandemic problem, which has put pressure on the U.S. Postal Service, especially since Americans are now encouraged to use the mail-in voting system, which is clearly beyond their ability and capacity, again, we're questioning, is this the right way to go about this? Currently, the U.S. Postal Service is having a hard time locating more than 300,000 ballots. These ballots, they were received, and we know that because of the incoming scan at the postal processing plant, but they never received an exit scan. What that means at best is that there's just more than 300,000 votes out there that are lost. Did they make it where they were supposed to go? It's in question. We've also seen evidence of voter fraud here in Texas. There was a San Antonio woman who was caught on camera engaging in what we call ballot harvesting. Now, I'm sure we've all heard about votes being cast by deceased people and ballots being smuggled into counting hubs at a few locations. And we might be tempted to quickly forward all of these claims of voter fraud, to everyone on our social media accounts and whatnot. And if this sounds like you, I encourage you, slow down and check the facts before you forward the information. Slow down and investigate the story. Make sure that there's actually evidence before you make the accusation. Listen, if there's legitimate evidence of voter fraud, and in some cases I believe that there is, well, we ought to expose this according to the encouragement that Paul presented in Ephesians chapter 5. There he declares, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. We've been called to expose the wicked works of those who might try to steal this election. And yet at the same time, the Christian must also refrain from spreading rumors and lies. Remember, Christians have been called to speak the truth in love. Therefore, it would be a sin for us to make false accusations which is based on incorrect information. Therefore, before you forward that news story about voter fraud, just make sure that you've actually gone and examined the sources and made sure that there's actually evidence to make the claim. Christian, listen, we've been called to live our life above reproach. And we ought to live our life above reproach so that we can maintain personal integrity. One reason why is due to the fact that those who spread the rumors that stem from unfounded accusations, well, we end up being exposed as those who can't be trusted. If people, see us spreading rumors about, political things, why would they believe us about spiritual things? And it's sad to say that many Christians have actually ruined their witness simply because they played fast and loose with the facts. They spread stories that were later debunked, and we don't want to be in that situation. We want to be above reproach. We want to maintain our testimony and so that we can actually have a good witness before the people in this world. Listen, if there's evidence of voter fraud, we can rest assured that the Supreme Court is going to sort it all out. Until then, let's just make sure that we're looking for every opportunity to lead those who are lost to the foot of the cross, where sinners can be saved by faith in Jesus Christ. With this as our calling, I encourage you, let's continue fighting the good fight of faith, all for the glory of God.